Greetings. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. Today, I'm going to read chapter 10 of the mystical Qabalah, The Paths of the Tree. It's only right since I read step 1 from Initiation into Hermetics, Gotta Have Balance. I consider Initiation into Hermetics the left brain, the logical, and the practical, and I consider the mystical Qabalah the right brain, the abstract, and the study. Yeah. So one details how the energy works. The other details how you work the energy. So yeah, we're gonna go over chapter 10. If you are a part of the study group, you know that I have the notes available on the Google Documents. The links are provided in the membership portion of this YouTube channel. If you're not a member and you really want to understand Qabalah or how magic works or how it applies to you, I highly recommend joining the study group. Of course, the PDF is available if you want to read along. Hopefully you've got the physical copy. Oh yeah, how's everybody doing tonight? I think on the West Coast it's about like 7 o'clock or so. Over here it just turned 11. Well, it's about to anyways. So yeah, I got my text ready. Got my CMOS. And I'm good to go. How's everybody doing tonight? KT, what's good? Chaos Fiji, greetings, greetings. Ashley Eccles, good to see you. Okay, so I guess without further ado, I'm gonna turn this camera around and look at the book instead of my beautiful face. How do we do that? Oh yeah. All right, all right. Gotta have my bookmarks so I can stay on task. Whoop. All right. Alchemy Gold, good to see you, good to see you. Damn near doing a marathon today, right? What's up, Evo7? Oh yeah. So I got a package today. Let's see what it is. Can anybody guess what book? Oh, there it is. If you've had an eye on my Instagram story, you might have an idea. Oh, sweet. It comes with a $100 wine voucher. Not that I drink wine or anything. And a bookmark. Awesome. Okay, this is what it is. Can't wait to be cracking into this. I definitely feel like I've seen this spirit many, many times. Really, that was what prompted me to purchase it. But yeah, we're not reading this book. Ooh, I just saw the Tree of Life. Check that out. But yeah, let's get to the task at hand, shall we? So we're going to be doing chapter 10. Been seeing these 444s all day long. What's good, Bunny Queen? After this, I'm going to try to get some Fortnite in. If anybody's down, you can find me at Travis Magus, of course. But more than likely, yeah. All right. Just getting situated here. Okay, yeah. All right. So the previous chapters, chapter 9 talked about the 10 Sephiroth and the four worlds, and it really related everything to the different fours, right? Like the four elements, of course, also the four suits of the deck of cards, and also the four triplicities of the zodiac. So that's like the fire signs, the air signs, the earth signs. Basically, what chapter 9 really told us was that you can break down anything in the occult as long as you can attribute it to one of the four elements. Now, of course, this corresponds with where we are in initiation into hermetics in the study group, because this is also asking you to employ the work of the magic mirror, the black mirror and the white mirror, which is where you are breaking down your different personality aspects, the flaws and the good things about yourself. And you're attributing each one of these qualities to one of the four elements. So again, if you're able to attribute something to one of the elements, you're able to break it down, magically, spiritually. As long as you can track it to something, you can deal with it. What is measured is managed. I find that quote to be used a lot the past couple of days here. And of course, the patterns of the tree breaks down even more different ways that you can kind of single everything out and put it into order. Because look, this occult stuff it can be very overwhelming. So it's highly necessary to have some system of categorization so that our left brain can really break it down and get to understand what the abstract right brain is trying to tell us. Okay, so yeah, let's get to chapter 10. The paths upon the tree. The Sefer Yetzirah refers to the 10 Sephiroth themselves, as well as the lines connecting them, as paths, and justly so, for they are equally channels of divine influence. All right, so think of the paths as actual channels of divine influence. The Sephiroth themselves are more like the power cells, but the paths are the channels through which they flow. But it is usual in practical working to consider the lines between the Sephiroth only as the paths, and the Sephiroth themselves as spheres upon the tree. This is one of the many tricks and blinds to be found in the Kabbalistic system, for if we think of the paths as 32 in number, as they are given in the Sefer Yetzirah, we shall not be able to equate them with the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, which, with their numerical value and correspondences, form the key to the paths. So basically what she's talking about here is there are 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, and these 22 letters correspond with the 22 paths, right? All these lines, right? But there's also 10 spheres. Now, the Sefer Yetzirah talks about 32 paths. So all you're doing is you're adding these 10 to the 22. But in truth, the paths are just the lines themselves, just the channels of divine force, the 22. We don't really classify the Sephiroth as paths. So all these different channels here, these 22 channels, they line up with the 22 trumps of the tarot, right? The major arcana. And meanwhile, the rest of the cards line up with the Sephiroth, right? All the aces line up with Kether. All the twos line up here, threes, fours, fives, sixes, sevens, eights, nines, and tens. And then, of course, the kings, no, the aces, the kings, the queens, the princes, and the princesses, the knights and the knaves. All right, so yeah, just to clarify that part. Bunny Queen says I have verse 4 and 5 highlighted and 8. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doing the same thing. Each path is said to represent the equilibrium of the two Sephiroth it connects, right? So each path is said to represent the equilibrium of the two Sephiroth it connects. So for example, the path here would be the equilibrium between Malkuth and Yesod, right? The path here would be the equilibrium between Chokmah and Tifereth, right? The path here would be the equilibrium between Hod and Tifereth. So each one of these paths symbolically are going to represent the balance between the two Sephiroth it connects. So that's an easy way to understand it. You feel me? This is one of the many reasons why she's been saying in the past couple of chapters that you can't understand the tree really by focusing on just one aspect. You've got to understand the tree as relation to itself. You feel me? So we can understand Gibera by understanding its relationship to Chesed and to everything else that it's connected to. Likewise, we can understand this path only by understanding Gibera and Chesed. By understanding these two, we can formulate what the synthesis of their energy is like, and that's going to give us the energy of this path. You see how this connects? No pun intended. What's good, Gerald Sombright? And we have to study it in the light of our knowledge of these Sephiroth if we are to appreciate its significance. Certain symbols are also assigned to the paths themselves. These are, as already noted, the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, the signs of the zodiac, the planets, and the elements. So yeah, of course, also each one of these paths are related to one of the signs of the zodiac and also one of the 4 elements. This also ties into the Goetia, all right, just to kind of jump far ahead. So don't think that I'm really veering off track from what I was talking about 2 years ago, because this is actually getting deeper into it. You feel me? Understanding this, you're going to be able to understand everything about magic. The 72 spirits of the Goetia relate to each one of these. So do the 72 spirits of the Shemham Mepharash. And for the longest time, I wanted to understand how did they come up with the personalities and the qualities of the 72 demons. It was very difficult to distinguish that. But after digging and really researching, I understand that it's more, they relate more to just the kings and the marquises and the presidents and all that other stuff. You also have to take into consideration what decan it relates to and its astrological sign, and also what element. So there's quite a few different qualities that you put together, and that's how you get the personality of the Goetic spirits. For example, Baal has qualities of Aries, and it also has qualities of Kether. If we really look forward to Kether, is it Kether? Let me make sure. Yes, it's Kether. So Baal is represented by the energy of Aries and Kether, right? And also the Two of Wands tarot card. So what we see with the Two of Wands tarot card is dominion. And this is where we get the personality of Baal, right? He is Aries. He is fire. He's 2. So excuse me, Chokmah. He relates to Chokmah, not Kether. But when you take all these different qualities into consideration, this is how they actually come up with the personalities of the Goetic spirits. So it's not just somebody daydreaming about monsters. This should connect. Another example of one of my favorites is Vasigo, and he's related to the 3 of Wands. So that's fire. And 3 is Binah, and that has to do with established strength. This is what makes him so good for me with psychic ability and tarot reading, because he is established. The knowledge and the wisdom that he's able to see is already there. It's not fluctuating. It's not like I'm getting up random lines. He's only reading what's already present. But we're going to get into that a little bit later on. We got to start with the basics first. So, where are we at? Certain symbols are also assigned to the paths themselves. These are, as already noted, the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, the signs of the zodiac, the planets, and the elements. Now, there are 12 signs in the zodiac, 7 planets, and 4 elements, making in all 23 symbols. How are these to be arranged on the 22 paths? Here's another Kabbalistic blind to puzzle the uninitiated. The answer is quite simple when it is known. Our consciousness being in the element of earth, we do not need the symbol of earth in our calculations when we make contact with the unseen, so we leave it out and then find ourselves with the correct set of correspondences. Malkuth is all the earth we need for practical purposes. So in other words, when you take into consideration all the zodiac signs, all the 4 elements, and the 7 planets, it makes 23. But we don't include Malkuth because we're in Malkuth. We're in the perspective of Malkuth. We're looking outward from the position of Malkuth. So we don't include that one. So subtract that 1 and we still have 22. That's how we can attribute all the different planets, zodiac signs, and 4 elements to the 22 paths. Yes, indeed. "12 zodiac, 7 planets, and 4 elements." Okay, verse 3. Godflow93 says, "What is this? Thought we only did Sunday mornings." I do every day. So I just felt the need to go ahead and share this. We're still doing Sunday, but shit, I would do this every day if I had the inkling to do so. Julie Voinovich says, "I'm down for whenever." My favorite quote from any female. Let's continue. Number 3. The third set of symbols to go upon the paths are the 22 trumps or major arcana of the tarot pack. With these 3 sets of symbols and the colors of the 4 color scales, remember the 4 worlds have 4 different colors for the Sephiroth. Our major symbolism is complete. The minor symbolism consists of the innumerable ramifications of the correspondences through all systems and planes. Alchemy Gold, thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate you. Oh my goodness. Number 4. The Tree of Life, astrology, and the tarot are not 3 mystical systems, but 3 aspects of one and the same system, and each is unintelligible without the others. There's a key. That's probably what you had highlighted, right, Bunny Queen? If not, I'm definitely highlighting it. Just for when I kind of flip through the book and I want to catch certain gems. But yeah, of course, it's self-explanatory, but this is one of the things that really need to be memorized in order to really understand what's going on here. The Tree of Life, astrology, and the tarot are not 3 mystical systems, but 3 aspects of one and the same, and each is unintelligible without the others, right? So we're understanding a set of symbols to really clarify and elucidate the working energies of the universe, right? So that's the Tree of Life, that's the astrology, and that's the tarot. They're all connected, and they're all different languages of the same voice. It is only when we study astrology on the basis of the tree that we have a philosophical system. Equally does this apply to the tarot system of divination, and the tarot itself, with its comprehensive interpretations, gives the key to the tree as applied to human life. 5. Astrology is so elusive because the uninitiated astrologer works on one plane only. But the initiated astrologer, with the tree as his ground plan, interprets on the 4 planes of the 4 worlds. And the effect of, shall we say, Saturn, is very different in Atziluth, where it is the divine mother, Binah, to what it is in Asaya. So most of these YouTube astrologers and tarot readers and Facebook readers or whatever, they're only semi-effective because they're only working from one angle of this complete circle. You feel me? This is why it's very crucial to understand the tree of life and astrology and tarot because they shine light on all the angles of the circle. I really don't know where most of these people are getting their tarot definitions from when they're doing their readings on the internet. I really don't, if they don't understand Kabbalah. But, third hand information kind of works, but it's best to have a complete understanding, which is why I am really trying to push the idea of studying this book here. Let's continue. Oh, yeah. And also, like she said, dealing with those four worlds, Binah or Saturn is very different in Absolute than it is in Asaya. It's the same energy, but it's working on a different degree and through a different form. Julie Voinovich asks, do they all root from the same tradition? I ask because Kabbalah seems to allow any system to overlay. Yes. Kabbalah really, I mean, it's hard to say the origin of Kabbalah because nobody knows. Even if they say they do, they don't. It very well may have been here before language, but this system is truly the root of any other system. That's why everything can be related back to this 10 sphere, 22 path tree, right? There's no way to escape it, no matter how hard you try. Bunny Queen says, struggling to do an in depth reading with no knowledge. I weep for the tarot cards. Yeah. I mean, the concept and the spirit of these cards are more powerful than any semi educated reader. So oftentimes the truth does still come out. Again, we're dealing with force and we're just giving it form. So it's better when you have more correspondences within you to give that force a form to speak through. That's why it's best to continue learning, right? Somebody on Facebook was complaining about reading books, you know what I'm saying? Because the books can't tell you that you're God or whatever. But come on, man, let's not get ridiculous. To growth means you continually add to what you have, or rather, you continually uncover what you have, and you do so through learning through others' experiences, because we're all the same thing, just different degrees. But yeah, let's get back to it. Number 6. All systems of divination and all systems of practical magic find their principles and philosophy based upon the tree. Whoever tries to use them without this key is like a foolhardy person who has a pharmacopoeia of patent medicines and doses himself and his friends according to the descriptions given in the advertisements, wherein backache includes every disease which does not cause pain in the front. The initiate who knows this tree is like the scientific physician who understands the principles of physiology and the chemistry of drugs and prescribes accordingly. Right? So basically, what this is saying is the difference between a random internet tarot astrologer person and me, someone like me, and you guys who are students, the difference between us and them is that those people are like someone who has a cough and they go to Google to research why am I coughing? And they come up with all kinds of, what's the word? Hypochondriac type of symptoms. Versus we would be more like a person who's went to school to understand the different categories of sickness and the different effects and how to heal yourself properly. Huge difference. Round of applause for those of you who are students and not Google doctors. All right. Various methods of attributing the tarot cards have been worked out from traditional sources. In his little book, The Key to the Tarot, A.E. Waite gives the chief of these, but refrains from indicating which, in his opinion, is the correct one. In his valuable tabulation of esoteric symbolism, 777, Crowley has no such reticence, but gives the system as it is known among initiates. This is the method I propose to follow in these pages, for I believe it to be the correct one because the correspondences work out without discrepancies, a thing they do in none of the other systems. According to this system, the 4 suits of the tarot pack are assigned to the 4 worlds of the Kabbalist and the 4 elements of the alchemist. The suit of wands is assigned to Atziluth and fire. The suit of cups to Bria and water. The suit of swords to Yetzirah and air. The suit of pentacles or coins to Asaya and earth. So really, if you wanted to get funky with it, you could take the 10 cards of wands and stack them up in accordance with the tree of life. In other words, you would have the ace of wands, 2 of wands, the 3 of wands, 4, 5, 6 of wands, 7, 8, 9, 10 of wands. And you could stack them up just like this. And then right underneath it, you could stack the ace of cups, the 2 of cups, 3 of cups, 4 of cups, 5 cups, 6 of cups, stack them up. And then you would actually stack up the 4 different trees. And this would show you the energies behind the 4 worlds. All right, starting to make a little bit of sense here. And likewise, these 22 paths line up with the major trumps. Oh, goodness. This is why when you're reading the tarot and you're doing a reading for somebody, it really depends on what cards you pull in relation and in context to the trumps that you pull in those readings. Again, how do people pull readings without understanding Kabbalah? I have no idea. It's probably a lot of guesswork. Let me stop, because everyone starts somewhere. Oh boy. But yeah, stack up those cards. It'd be an interesting exercise for those of you with tarot decks to kind of just do that and just to analyze what you see. I think it'd be pretty interesting. The 4 aces are assigned to Kether, the first Sephirah. The 4 twos to Shakma, the second Sephirah, and so on down the pack. The 4 tens being assigned to Malkuth. It will thus be seen that the cards of the 4 suits of the tarot pack represent the action of the divine forces in each sphere and on the level of nature, on each level of nature. Equally, if we know the significance of the tarot cards, we shall obtain much light on the nature of the paths and spheres to which they are assigned. Okay, because remember what we said earlier, what Dion said earlier, was that the path is actually the balance of the 2 Sephiroth. So if you look at your fire tree and you see the 2 of wands and you see the 3 of wands, when you pull the, excuse me, let me do it different. If you have the ace of wands and you've got the 6 of wands here, if you have the high priestess in the middle, she's actually symbolizing the nature of the ace of wands and the 6 of wands in that Atziluth tree, versus if you have the Bria tree and you've got the ace of cups and the 6 of cups, the high priestess card means something a little bit different, right? This gets pretty interesting. Godflow says, this is gold because I still need to read chapter 10, but it's like reading the mystical Qabalah with a voice from the heavens giving you clarification and guidance. Yes, yes. And this is the whole reason I wanted to do this group, because I believe this book has so much powerful information, and it's so easy to overlook it if you don't have background and context. And really a big part of me being here is to help accelerate you guys' understanding so you can go off and do much bigger, better things. So yeah, this is kind of a catch up, because look, we've already been here. You have already been here. That's why you're attracted to my channel in the first place. I'm just helping you to get back where you were so you can continue your mission. And this helps me continue my mission. But enough fluffy woo-woo talk. I try to keep that to myself. Let's get to the text. Yeah, buddy. It will thus be seen that the cards of the 4 suits of the tarot pack represent the action of the divine forces in each sphere and on each level of nature. Equally, if we know the significance of the tarot cards, we shall obtain much light on the nature of the paths and spheres to which they are assigned. Both these systems, the tarot and the tree, being of immemorial antiquity, their origins lost in the vistas of the ages, there is an enormous mass of symbolic correspondences accumulated around each of them. Every practical occultist who has ever worked with the tree has added to this stock of associations, making the symbols live in the astral by means of his operations. The tree and its keys are infinite in their adaptability. In other words, Crowley and Mathers and Dion Fortune and Ophiel and Bobby Hemmett and all these people in the past who have given us correspondences to understand these things, it all still applies. The form may change, but the force remains the same. Doesn't matter if I describe it or if Austin Osman Spare describes it. We're talking about the same energy. And it's your job as an observer and an active practitioner to see beyond the words, right? To see beyond the words of what I'm saying and to look to the force, look to the energy of what's going on here. The four court cards of the tarot are called in modern packs King, Queen, Knight, and Knave, but in the traditional packs they are, according to Crawley, arranged and symbolized differently. The king being a mounted figure, indicating the swift action of the yod of the tetragrammaton in the sphere of each suit, and thus equating with the knight of the modern pack. The queen, as in modern packs, is a seated figure representing the steadfast forces of the he of the tetragrammaton. The prince of the esoteric tarot is a seated figure corresponding to the vow of the tetragrammaton and the princes. The knave of modern packs corresponds to the he of the sacred name. Very interesting. Taking a look at the symbolism here, how he talks about the king is seated and the queen is seated, right? You notice that in these cards, they're sitting down. So that symbolizes that their power is anchored and rooted and stable, right? Then you look at the knaves, right? You look at the knights, the knights are on horses, running, galloping, moving, active energy, right? This all means something. They didn't just draw these pictures just to be drawing pretty ass pictures on tarot cards. And this also leads me to question all of these different tarot decks that come out. You know, a lot of times it's people that just want to feel special and make a tarot deck, but the images don't correspond to the energy. This is why I recommend the Rider White deck, because these people knew what they were doing when they were creating these cards. This is why it's very important to understand the source of your information and not just run off with any old funky prophet, because anybody can say some stuff or write a book, but you really want to do your research to make sure where you're getting your information. Jose Ventura, read the book called Dharana Darshan. But otherwise, this video is about Mystical Qabalah, Chapter 10, as the title implies. FX Alchemist says, what about Crawley deck? Well, we just mentioned Crawley and, you know, how Dion Fortune is going with his reference. So I think it's safe to say that Crawley knew what he was talking about with his deck. 11. The 22 trumps are arranged in various ways by various authorities, of which Mr. Waite gives a selection. But in our system, we will follow the order given by Crawley for reasons already discussed. 12. In these pages, wait, let me just make sure. I think I missed something here. Yeah, that's pretty powerful right there. Don't want to forget that. Definitely want to bring that up tomorrow. King being a mounted figure, indicating the swift action of the yod. The queen is a seated figure as well. The steadfast forces of the hay. The prince is a seated figure corresponding to the vow. And the princess, knaves, corresponds to the hay. So yeah, just keep in mind the symbolism here. Yeah, Julie Voinovich says, so long as the archetypes match, should be good. Just needs to be sure not to lose any symbolism. Exactly. Cassandra says the Thoth deck is beautiful. Yeah, they definitely took a very long time to create that deck. There's a lot of energies holding them back from producing that. Very interesting story, very interesting history if you can look into that. For those of you who have the time and money and sufficient interest, One of the many tarot books that I would, of course, recommend is, of course, the Kabbalistic Tarot. And look at how it's spelled. That means it goes along with this. But this book really does give a lot of the history and the subtle nuances of the Kabbalistic reference of these decks. It get deep. It gets deep. Let me tell you. Let's continue. "12. In these pages, we propose to give the philosophical tree of life and enough practical instruction to render it available for meditation purposes. To render it available for meditation purposes. But we do not propose to give the practical Qabalah, which is used for magical purposes." So like I said, we're reading Initiation into Hermetics for the practice, but Mystical Qabalah is for the study. She doesn't give the practical practices, but she gives you the study. And honestly, if you're paying attention to this book, the study is kind of sprinkled in behind the lines, behind the scenes, right? And because of the group that she was in, the Secret Society, she wasn't allowed to just straight up give the information. But she does it in such a way that if you understand what she's talking about, you can figure it out. Okay. All right. But we do not propose to give the practical Qabalah, right? Which is used for magical purposes, because that can only properly be learnt and safely practiced in a temple of the mysteries. Welcome to the first digital temple of the mysteries. I'm your host, Travis Magus. Reference must be made to the practical Qabalah, however, in order to render some of the concepts intelligible. But those who are rightfully in possession of its keys need have no fear that these keys will be revealed to the uninitiated in these pages, for I am quite alive to the consequences of doing so. Well, in so doing. "13. If from the information here given, and as a result of pursuing the methods described herein, anyone is able to work out for himself the keys of the practical Qabalah, as he well may, can any dispute that he is entitled to them?" In other words, if you can read this book and understand what she's talking about and understand how to use it, you're pretty much entitled to being able to use it. And this is one of the reasons why the game is to be sold and not to be told. You have to earn it. Even if it was given to you, you wouldn't know how to use it. You know what I'm saying? You have to be at a certain level of consciousness to put these principles to work, right? I mean, I don't have to dig too deep into that. Some people can watch this video and get nothing out of it. Some people can get a little bit out of it. Some people can get a lot out of it. But it all depends on your level of perception. So she'd rather not set you up for failure by giving you too much information, because a little bit of knowledge in the wrong hands can be very damaging. Godflow93 says, "True, spirit will guide you." Absolutely. Bunny Queen says, "Everything can be found if you know where to look. Hidden in plain sight." Julie Voinovich says, "Don't give a baby a chainsaw." Mainly because it's very heavy and the little baby fingers couldn't pull the trigger. Let's continue. 14. The tree is enormously valuable as a meditation glyph, quite apart from its use in magic. By meditations such as I have described in my account of my own experiences on the 30-second path, it is possible to equilibrate the warring elements in one's own nature and bring them into a harmonious balance. By the way, the 30-second path is the path of Saturn. And it's actually this one right here in between Malkuth and Yesod. That's why it's black. It is also possible to get into sympathetic rapport with the different aspects of nature which these symbols represent when applied to the macrocosm, even if these forces are not given a definite form in talismanic magic. The information that is obtained from the study of one's own horoscope is not to be accepted passively as the dispensation of fate from which there is no appeal. we ought to realize that talismanic magic, or the less concentrated method of meditation upon the tree, should be used to compensate all unbalanced force in the horoscope and bring all into equilibrium. Talismanic magic is to astrology what medical treatment is to medical diagnosis. So I kind of knew this would happen, but I wanted Spirit to prove it. When I set up the different chapters for reading and the pace that we're going to be going through in this group, I didn't know that it would correspond, but intuitively I knew it would correspond. What she's talking about here, as far as healing the soul through balancing the different elements, is exactly what you should be going through right now if you're keeping up with the study group in Initiation into Hermetics. The black mirror and the white mirror from step one, which I did a video on previously, has everything to do with taking into account these aspects of yourself that you want to deal with and assigning these aspects to one of the four elements, right? And this is a very similar procedure to what she's describing here in verse number 14. You feel me? Cassandra says both Hermetics and Mystical Kabbalah mention microcosm often. Yes, because they're literally talking about the same subject here. To be honest, we're studying the four elements and the tree of life. These books, these two books, only serve as sigils for left brain and right brain. This is a ritual in itself, right? Reading this book by itself or this book by itself would not have the same effect. But the fact that we as a group are doing it together, we're actually pulling way more out of it than any individual one of us would just reading these willy-nilly with no intention. Intent is everything. Timing is everything. Etheric patterns are everything. Trinity Review says, so disappointed I'm late. It's all good. I didn't really warn you of a time. I just know that I'm going to do a book read, and I try to give as best a warning as I can. I don't go along with time, unfortunately. I took a long ass nap. But hey, the perfect thing is that this is on YouTube, so you should be able to pull it up again. Bunny Queen, thank you very much. I see that peach. Somebody come get her. She's dancing like a stripper. Let's continue. 15. It is not possible for me to give any formula of practical magic here. Before such formula can be made use of, it is necessary to have received the grades of initiation to which they belong. Without these grades, the student is no better off than the person who tries to diagnose and treat his own complaints after reading a medical textbook. That delightful humorist, Jerome K. Jerome, has told us what happens in such a case. The unfortunate imagines that he has every disease described therein, except housemaid's knee, and cannot make up his mind as to the appropriate treatment, for everything he fancies is contraindicated. That's exactly what I said. These YouTube, Facebook, Instagram tarot people who don't do their research, who don't understand the aspects of tarot, astrology, and Kabbalah together, are a lot like the person who, has a headache and they go to Google MD or whatever and research headaches, and they think that they have every sickness listed there. And since they think they have every sickness, they don't know which possible treatment to go. In other words, you only have a piece of the equation. You've only got the problem. You don't have the solution. Those of us who do study, right, and put into congruent understanding these multiple aspects, we're more like the person who's actually gone to school to study sickness and disease. So we know what healing method to apply, right? Wow. Rose Jean, thank you very much. I appreciate you. And hopefully, through this reading, I'm able to help you clarify some things you may have not seen previously. That's the whole point of this. So thank you very much. The Bible says, study to show thyself approved. It doesn't hurt you to study. It doesn't. And always keep into consideration, yes, you're taking from someone else's knowledge, but, before that, you should take into consideration who you're learning from. I choose Dion Fortune as one of my teachers because she knows her shit. You can just tell from these words. But furthermore, she's actually involved directly with the society who helped to put these teachings together. So this isn't like some third, fourth, fifth hand information from somebody trying to make a quick buck. This is from an advanced initiate. The same with Franz Barden. This is somebody who not only knows his stuff, but is involved firsthand with a society that helped put some of this stuff together, right? Versus somebody that just came out 5 years ago, who just heard of Qabalah 6 years ago and wrote a book a couple months later. It's very crucial to understand who you're learning from, right? I didn't just jump on YouTube suddenly after I learned a few key words. I literally have been studying this stuff for 15 plus years, right? I've been in this for like 20 years plus. So I've made my mistakes. I've done all the dumb shit already. Now I'm focused on what's actually important. I'm showing you this is it, right? You don't have to take my word for it. You can experience it for yourself. But it would behoove you to at least consider what I'm saying. Number 16. The ritual initiations of the greater mysteries of the Western esoteric tradition are based upon the principles of the Tree of Life. Each grade corresponds to a sephirah and confers, or should confer, if the order working them is worthy of the name, the powers of that sphere of nature. Likewise, it opens up the paths leading to that sephirah, so that the initiate is said to be the lord of the 32nd path, when he has taken the initiation that corresponds to Yesod. Right? So if you take the initiation of the 32nd path and you pass it, you become the lord of the 32nd path. Keep in mind, some societies have 33 degrees. Let's continue. When he has taken the initiation that corresponds to Yesod, or lord of the 24th, 25th, and 26th paths, when he has taken the initiation corresponding to Tifereth, which constitutes him a full initiate. Beyond this lie the greater grades of adepthood. Check it out. So what she's talking about, and like I mentioned, she's part of an actual group that put all this knowledge together, is what's covered in this gigantic, massive book here, right? And she mentions that each of the grades that you travel upon are based off of this tree, right? Based off of this glyph of the tree, right? So there's 22 paths and there's 10 Sephiroth, which make 32 grades that you can be a part of. But somewhere in this book, it talks about how, depending on, there we are, there's one of them. The password of this grade is 5 equals 6. So that has a lot to do with one of these bad boys here, right? So your grade depends on which sphere you've been able to sufficiently pass, do the work for, so that you can be titled Lord of that sphere. But hey, I'm just throwing a bunch of words out there. I don't know nothing about nothing. Monoceros. Bunny says, if you are catching the playback or not aware of the Facebook group, slide on over to get more gems with the ones you are picking up here. Absolutely. And if you join the Facebook group, the Magus Society, please answer the 3 questions. It's very simple. You'd be surprised. Many people who try to join don't answer the questions, so they don't get in. Just saying. Number 17. The aim of each grade of initiation of the greater mysteries is to introduce the candidate to the sphere of each sephirah in turn, working from Malkuth up the tree. The instructions given in each grade concern the symbolism and forces of the sphere to which it refers and the paths that equilibrate it. The sign and word of the grade are used when treading these paths in the spirit vision or projecting by them on the astral plane. Wow. Consequently, the initiate is able to move with accuracy and certainty into whatsoever sphere of the unseen he desires to penetrate, and to countercheck all beings he meets and all visions he sees, for he knows what the colors of the paths are in all four scales, and he checks his vision by these. If he is working up the 32nd path of Saturn, whose colors are all in the somber hues of indigo, dark blue, and black, he knows that something is amiss if a scarlet robed figure presents itself. Either that figure is elusive, or he himself has wandered off the path. So, those of you who just heard of astral projection a few months ago and you're like, oh, I want to astral project, that's like the end all be all. That is only learning how to walk. There's actually a whole journey to take with this astral projection stuff. As you can see, there are 32 paths that you travel in your advancement, starting with Malkuth. But like I said earlier, you're already here in Malkuth, so we don't count that one, right? But the next step would be the 32nd path, which is right here in between Malkuth and Yesod. And to be honest, there are entities that correspond with each one of these paths. There's a guardian of each path, just like the Tephiroth. The Goetia, right? And these are called the entities of the tunnels of Set. For example, the entity that guards this path here is called Thantifaxath, right? And here's his really weird looking sigil. But he's the guardian of the 32nd path. But anyways, it says here the colors are black and blue, just like Dion Fortune said. Now, what's going on here is that the entire astral plane, well, not the entire, but a specific portion of the astral plane has been mapped out. And you can tell exactly where you are based on the correspondences that you see, the colors, the sounds, right? The entities that you might encounter. If you're on this path and you see a scarlet robed entity, you probably wandered off over here to the left or somewhere up here. But you want to do the work of each particular path and you want to face that guardian. If you ever have an astral projection or a dream and you encounter something that is offensive or antagonistic, that is a symbol of something that you need to work on before you can pass that barrier. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. This gets pretty interesting, guys. It really does. Yeah, it's easy to astral project. It's difficult to project further. You know what I mean? 18. To project the astral body along the paths, it is necessary for many reasons to hold the degrees of initiation to which they correspond. Chief among which is that unless one has received the grade, one will be unknown to the guardians of the paths, and they will be inimical rather than helpful, and do all in their power to turn the wanderer back. Secondly, if one should succeed in forcing one's way past the guardian, one still has no means of counter-checking the vision or knowing whether one is on or off the path. And there are plenty of beings in the lower sphere who are only too ready to take advantage of presumptuous ignorance. So in other words, you can't cheat your way through it. You can't hotep your way through it. You can't use fancy buzzwords through it. You can't receive Instagram and Facebook likes through it. You got to know what you're doing and where you're at. You got to have the confidence. You got to maintain your frame. You have to be familiar with the symbols, right? You can't fake the funk in the astral plane. You can fool other human beings, but you're not going to fool these energies. In other words, it's very important to build your library of correspondences and at the same time understand how these things correlate to you. This is how you advance. You got to take fear out of the picture. Oh yeah. I love it. These considerations, however, need in no way discourage anyone who wishes to meditate upon the past and the spheres in the manner I have described. So look, you can meditate on any of these. You can do the work for any of these, but just be aware that the deeper work is going to involve some deeper work. All right. And in the course of his meditations, he may so enter into the spirit of the path that its guardian shall come to know him and make him welcome. He will then literally have initiated himself, and no one can deny his right to be there. So, look, some of you are already at the level where you can take this stuff on and be okay, right? Some people are not. And I think those people know who they are. Those people that still get scared if they hear the word demon, or who have a certain fear of astral projection, right? If you have any type of fear or resignation about a certain thing, you haven't passed that grade. There's still work to do. And wow, that just clarified something for myself. Interesting. Number 20. The tree, considered from the initiatory standpoint, is the link between the microcosm, which is man, and the macrocosm, which is God made manifest in nature. A ritual initiation is the act of linking the microcosmic Sephiroth, the chakra, with the macrocosmic Sephiroth. It is the introduction of a newcomer to the sphere by those who are already there. They construct a symbolic representation of the sphere on the physical plane in the furniture of the temple. They construct an astral replica of it by concentrated imagination. And by means of invocation, they call down into this temple, not made with hands, the forces of the sphere of the Sephiroth they are working upon. Interesting. These forces stimulate the corresponding chakras of the initiate and wake them to the activity in his aura. The process of self-initiation by the meditations I have described is slower than the processes of ritual initiation, but it is sure enough if preserved by a suitable person. But one cannot teach a jellyfish to sing by feeding it on canary seed. So even if I force feed you this information and I read the book for you, that doesn't mean you're going to get it. You still have to do the work. Now, as she says here, even though meditation and path working through visualization is slower than actual going through a ritual, it's still effective. And honestly, I would prefer it because not many of us have access to be in these types of groups. So it's actually better for us to actually sit down and do the meditation and the visualization and work through it. One cannot teach a jellyfish to sing by feeding it on canary seed. Powerful. You can't hotep your way through it. You can't put on some kente cloth and kneel and put up your fist and say Black Lives Matter if you ain't. Human beings do some funny stuff, man. Y'all be falling for it too. But yeah, that was chapter 10. It's getting very interesting, and we're not too much further from actually breaking into part 2, which, you guessed it, deals directly with the Sephiroth. But obviously, she's got to set it all up for you so you can put it into context. And I really understand, right? Because there's so many different patterns on this tree, so many different patterns, that if you don't have them at least in the back of your head, you're going to miss so much. So please, if you can, keep up with the study group, right? If you're not part of the study group and you want to understand this energy, you want to understand the tree of life, you want to understand how you can use it, I advise you to join the study group. It is not expensive at all. Tomorrow, Cassandra, we're actually going to be talking about chapters 8, 9, and 10. I just wanted to read it because, yeah, I did a little vote in the group and most people voted for chapter 10. Honestly, I think that 8 and 9 were a lot more data healthy than 10. Charlotte Swan, welcome aboard. But yeah, I think that these initial chapters are really, really setting up the frame to understand this tree better than you could from just watching random YouTube videos with an unconcentrated effort. Like the study group and this book is really walking you down a specific path to learn exactly what this here is all about. There's not going to be any confusion by the time we finish this book. And if there is, you can talk to me directly and I will help you to clarify it as much as possible. Like I said, this is why we've got this group together. Julie Voinovich, I hope you guys enjoy your birthday. Of course, the replay will be there. And, I talk to you all the time on Facebook. So, of course, you can hit me with any questions you may have or anything you may have discovered on your own. But yeah, like I said, if you guys want to know about this stuff, please read this book. If you'd like to know about it faster with help, please join the group. But yeah, good stuff, good stuff. I appreciate you guys being here with me on this Saturday evening. Is there any questions so far? Is there anything anybody wanted to kind of, elucidate or bring up or discuss about chapter 10 or anything like that before we go into our big meeting tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time? Yeah, Charlotte Swan, meet up with us tomorrow. Welcome, welcome. But yeah, KSVG says, "Man, I'm about to sell crack to afford these books." Now, also remember, you don't have to have all these books. Me, because I am teaching this content, I seek to have a much, much, much deeper understanding of what I'm actually teaching. So I'm not just spitting out random words that I made up. That's why I buy all these books, and that's why I study them all at the same time. You don't have to do that unless you want to, but mainly ones like this are going to give you the core information. FX Alchemist asks, does performing rituals, i.e. LBP, put you in an egregore, or is it still solo work? It does line you up with egregoric type energy, but your personality is composed of 10 egregores here, so nothing too different from what you're already doing. You're just attuning it, you're just focusing it. Let's see. Just reading through the comments here to make sure I didn't miss anything. Happy Cancer season, everybody. Happy Cancer season, Bunny Queen. Charlotte Swan says, is my group for beginners? Absolutely. Everything I do is for beginners. I try to connect the complex work to make it simple so you can really have a head start. My mission here is to accelerate you from level 1, all the way up to a level where you're able to use this stuff on purpose. So yeah, and that's the whole thing with me actually being there. If you have any questions that you don't understand a certain concept, I will clear it up for you. I've gotten pretty good at that. I think I got plenty of people who can vouch for that. So yeah, don't be afraid of not knowing anything. You'll get up to speed very quickly. There's several members who have joined at least a month ago, and you'd be surprised at the type of questions they're asking now, because rapid understanding is very possible when you have the right teacher. And in case you haven't guessed it, I'm the right teacher. Godflow93 says, when reading through the chapters, it's hard for me to pinpoint in my imagination where each Sephirah and placement of the Tree of Life are. Well, that's why it's good to have this picture near you, right? That's why it's printed on the cover. It would also be really good to draw this yourself, but Yeah, this is a sigil. This image is a symbol, and it would greatly behoove you to memorize it. Right now, there's 10. There's three. There's three, and there's three, and there's one up top. Just look at it a bunch. Look at it a bunch, and it'll start to burn into your memory. But as I've said before, there's so many things that you can attribute to this, right? You see the head right here and the shoulders. This lines up with the aura of the human body, the astral body. This also lines up with the chakras: crown chakra, third eye, throat chakra, heart chakra, stomach chakra, sexual chakra, root chakra, right? But yeah, yeah, this is good stuff. And I'm also very proud of the people who were just a few months ago asking, how do I summon a demon, to now asking, where do I astral project to, and what do I do this and that? And there's so much growth, right? You got to really question, if you're learning from somebody and you haven't grown, right? Like, what are you doing? You want to get with somebody who can actually help you become a better you, right? Otherwise, you're wasting your time. But yeah, enough of that. I'm about to head off here and get on some Fortnite because I did 2 videos today, and I'm gonna play video games now. Appreciate you guys. I'm about to give you a hug. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. And as always, peace.